Welcome back, everybody, to 360 Sports Network at 360sportsnetwork.blogspot.com. I am the Lost Cause, coming to you again with the Daily Pigskin Blink, a daily look at fantasy football, the NFL, players, stats, previews, reviews, and rumor mill, and everything else to help make your fantasy football team hum. Let's get it started with Minnesota coming into Atlanta, hoping to get a win without Adrian Peterson being in the starting lineup. Toby Gerhart in his stead, 17 carries, 44 yards, and 1 touchdown. Piercy Harvin, 8 receptions, 94 yards, and 1 touchdown. On the other side of the ball for Atlanta, Matt Ryan finished the game with 27 completions out of 34 attempts, 262 yards, and 3 touchdowns, and receiving Roddy White with 10 receptions for 120 yards and 1 touchdown. Cleveland comes into Cincinnati hoping to get a win with Hillis back in the starting lineup, but loses 23-20 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Colt McCoy finishes the game, 16 completions out of 34 attempts, 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. Norwood in the air, 4 receptions, 69 yards and 1 touchdown. Dalton gets it done again, 21 completions out of 31 attempts, 270 yards and 1 touchdown. Cedric Benson on the ground, 21 carries for 106 yards and 1 touchdown. A.J. Green back in the starting lineup, 3 receptions for 110 yards. Tampa Bay comes into Tennessee hoping to keep the resurged offense going as far as fantasy football goes behind Blunt and Williams. Can't get it done as they lose to the Tennessee Titans 23-17. For Tampa Bay, Freeman finishes the game, 18 completions, 33 attempts, almost 200 yards and 1 touchdown. Blunt on the ground, 20 carries, 103 yards, no end zone dances. And as far as Mike Williams goes, 6 receptions, 84 yards, and 1 touchdown. I think LeGarrette Blunt and Mike Williams become starters in your fantasy lineup once again. This is 2 weeks in a row where they've been able to put it together. Even though it's been not that dramatic, I would still start them from now on. Matt Hasselbeck on the other side of the ball, 19 completions, 34 attempts, 160 yards, and 1 touchdown. Chris Johnson keeps going with this inconsistency, especially towards the late part of the season. 23 carries for 190 yards, but no end zone dances for him. The Carolina Panthers at 2-8 look to go to 3 wins for this season as they come into Indianapolis and keep their losing ways going. Carolina beating the Colts 27-19. Cam Newton 20 for 27 for 208, 1 touchdown on the ground. Jonathan Stewart 10 carries for 70 yards, and Smith 3 receptions for 68 yards. On the other side of the ball, Painter 15 completions out of 29 attempts, 226 yards, 1 touchdown. Donald Brown, I said a couple weeks ago he was going to be a fantasy pickup. 14 carries, 80 yards, 1 touchdown. Reggie Wayne in the air, 5 receptions, 122 yards, and 1 touchdown. In another losing match, Arizona Cardinals comes into St. Louis hoping to get another win this season, and sure enough they do. 23-20 is the final of that game. Skelton 12 for 23 for 114 yards, no touchdowns. The big fantasy play of the day, Chris Beanie Wells, 27 carries for 228 and a touchdown. On the other side of the ball, Bradford 17 for 31, 203 yards, 1 touchdown. Jackson on the ground, 17 carries, 64 yards, and Lloyd in the air, 5 receptions, 74 yards, 1 touchdown. The Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets fight it out as both teams are at 5-5, with the Jets coming out on top, 28-24. Ryan Fitzpatrick has a great fantasy day, going 26 for 39 for 264 and 3 touchdowns. C.J. Spiller taking the place of Fred Jackson in the starting lineup, 19 carries for 55 yards, and Smith 4 receptions, 77 yards, and 1 touchdown. On the other side of the ball, a huge touchdown performance by Sanchez, 17 for 35, 180 yards, and 4 touchdowns as he makes Keller his leading receiver with 4 receptions, 61 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The Houston Texans look to keep extending their lead in the AFC South as they come into Jacksonville with a final score of 20-13. Texans on top. Yates 8 for 15, 70 yards. Foster, another RB1 performance, 22 carries, 65 yards, 1 touchdown. Definitely in the face of adversity for that team. Leinart was looking really, really good. 1 touchdown, a good quarterback rating until he left the game with a shoulder injury. Keep your head up for that. You really don't know what's going to happen with that, but if that's any indication of what's going to happen in Houston, I think Leinart becomes a definite pickup. On the other side of the ball, the Jacksonville Jaguars, there's not really a lot of fantasy football talent to look at except for MJD, and he definitely got it done, leading the team in both rushing and receiving. 18 carries for 99 yards, 4 receptions for 67 yards. The Chicago Bears look to come into Oakland and kind of stomp on them in really the only matchup Sunday of winning teams. Chicago couldn't get it done as the Oakland Raiders extend their record to 7-4 as they beat the Chicago Bears 25-20 for passing. For Chicago, Haney, 18 of 36, 254, 2 touchdowns. A lot of shaky plays as far as him leading the team at quarterback at the same time. His fantasy stats really weren't that bad. I don't think that he's a fantasy pickup just yet, but keep your eyes on him because you never really know what's going to happen in that offense, especially with a guy like Johnny Knox. 4 receptions, 145 yards, and 1 touchdown. On the other side of the ball, Palmer, 21 of 37, 301 yards, no passing touchdowns. Michael Bush keeps it going, 24 carries, 69 yards, 1 touchdown. In other news, in Seattle, in a game that I really didn't think would have too many fantasy football options, there were some points to be gotten if you look deep enough, as the Washington Redskins beat the Seattle Seahawks at home 23-17. Rex Grossman finishes the game 26 for 35, 314, and 2 touchdowns. Those are some pretty impressive numbers. This is also against Seattle. Later on in the season. If he does this again the next week, then he's probably a good pickup for the last 4 weeks of this season, maybe even the last 2 weeks if you do run a QB2 kind of, if you are in a QB2 kind of league. Halu, 23 carries, 108 yards, 1 touchdown for Washington. Gaffney was the leading receiver, 5 receptions for 72 yards. For Seattle, Jackson actually had a decent game, decent enough, 2 touchdowns passing. Lynch, of course, he keeps doing what Lynch always does, 24 carries for 111 yards. The New England Patriots look to go into Philadelphia and keep extending their lead in the AFC East. Sure enough, they do, 38-20 on the backs of the Brady Gronkowski show. However, Deion Branch was the leading receiver in this game, 6 receptions for 125, but the law firm of Green Ellis was the big play of the day, 14 carries, 44 yards, and 2 touchdowns. On the underside of the ball, Vince Young finishes the game with 400 yards passing and 1 touchdown. Depending on bonuses, what kind of league that you play in, man, he's done it 2 games in a row where he's had decent performances. He was even the leading rusher with 6 carries and 40 yards on the day. He may be a lookup if Vic is down 1 more week. Jason Avant in the air, the leading receiver for Philadelphia, 8 receptions, 110 yards, and 1 touchdown. In overtime, the Broncos step on the San Diego Chargers 16-13 as they keep their win streak alive. Tim Tebow, 9 for 18, 143, 1 touchdown. McGahee on the ground, leading rusher, 23 carries, 117 yards, no touchdowns. And Decker catches a touchdown pass again, finally. 3 receptions, 65 yards, and 1 touchdown. Phillip Rivers cannot rebound from some pretty decent play, but declining play as far as their offense goes. 19 of 36, 188 yards, and 1 touchdown. However, the Denver Broncos do have a pretty solid secondary, so we all kind of saw that coming. However, what we didn't see was Ryan Matthews' resurgence, 22 carries for 137 yards, but no touchdowns. In last night's game, the Pittsburgh Steelers defeat the Kansas City Chiefs 13-7, extending their record to 8-3, still behind the Ravens because of the tiebreakers. Big Ben Roethlisberger, 21 for 31, 193, and 1 touchdown. Mendenhall, leading rusher for Pittsburgh, 17 carries, 57 yards. And Antonio Brown keeps his wide receiver 3 argument alive. If he is available in any league, pick him up now. 4 receptions, 81 yards, no touchdowns. Palko still not able to put it together as far as the offense goes. Bo kind of got fantasy numbers, but for Bo being a top wide receiver 1 at the beginning of the season, he's not getting it done now. 7 receptions, 69 yards, and as far as the rushing assignments go, I mean, it's going to be Jones, it's going to be Battle, it's going to be McCluster. Today it was Jones, 13 carries, 37 yards, no touchdowns. That's it for the Daily Pigskin Blink. You can check out this podcast as well as every other broadcast at 360sportsnetwork.blogspot.com. If you have any questions, any comments, anything that has to do with any sport at all under the sun, baseball, football, hockey, the NBA coming back to you December 25th with a triple header. Even collegiate sports, BCS is coming up, and it's going to be championship game weekend coming up. You can send in your questions to 360sportsnetwork@gmail.com. If you have any questions, comments, if you have any rumors, any injury reports, anything else that you want to send over to me for the Daily Pigskin Blink, you can send it to lostcause@ fantasyfootballtoolkit.com, and you can also follow us on Twitter at 3S Network. Take care, everybody, and have a good one.